Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I had a really cool interview with an incredible guy. It's really neat to meet a young, according to me, young man in his, I think he's late 20s, early 30s. His name's Mastin Kipp. Mastin Kipp is just an amazing man. He's the founder of The Daily Love, a place to love and be loved, and that's at thedailylove.com. He shares love every day. He talks about being authentic. He talks about spirit and love and life and problems and relationships. And it was just so honored to have somebody that is from the younger generation really leading the way in awareness and consciousness. So welcome, Mastin.
What's going on?
Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, no problem, of course.
Okay, so how do you define the word authenticity in your life and in your world? And who are your models of authenticity and why?
Good question. I think authenticity at its core is, I think, is love. And our definition of love at the Daily Love is total acceptance of what is, which is not to be confused with total toleration of what is. There's a difference between accepting something and tolerating something. Like, you can accept that a tragedy happened, but that doesn't mean that you tolerate it continuing to happen. But I think all the spiritual traditions teach us that really acceptance is the first step. And so authenticity, as it relates to that, and really loving yourself, authenticity is basically this idea of just accepting yourself where you are, rather than trying to make yourself go somewhere else. One of my favorite quotes on this subject from a dear friend of mine, an author, Robert Holden. Mm-hmm. And Robert says that no amount of self-help can work without self-acceptance. Because if you try to improve upon yourself without accepting yourself, you're sort of starting at a negative or a deficit. It never really works because you're constantly trying to reach outside of yourself to fulfill yourself or lift yourself up. When really it's about more of accepting. And I think as far as people who, are my role models, Oprah Winfrey is certainly at the top of that list.
Right.
And it's interesting, Oprah is someone that I had the privilege of meeting and doing lunch with and hanging out with. And, when you meet someone at that level, you have all these preconceived notions of, like, who they're going to be or who you hope them to be. Or, for me, coming from Hollywood and being a music manager, maybe like, oh, God, I really hope she's not this way.
Right, right.
And when you meet her, she is like everything that you wanted her to be and more. She's gracious, she's vulnerable, she's humble, she's present, she cares, and she really leads with an open heart. And I really think that, for lack of a better term, authenticity can sort of be described, if you could give it a term, would be almost Oprahification. Because if you look at like what Oprah has done and how she's built her community, people feel really connected to her when she shares vulnerably, not when she's, perfect. And I think that's really what connects us as human beings, is this idea of like sharing vulnerably who I am and what I'm feeling, rather than trying to be some perfect representation of, a billionaire or a thought leader or a role model or any of those types of things. Like, I never get that vibe from her. From her, it's really just like, I'm just Oprah, and I'm here, and I'm sharing, and who I'm going through. It's really beautiful. I think someone who's an authority on this, I've never met her, but her books certainly speak to what you're talking about, and like the ground.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Daring Greatly.
Mm-hmm.
I just picked up that book, and I'm going through it right now. I think that what she stands for is really amazing and really beautiful. And I really think that any teacher, a teacher or a thought leader or a luminary, whatever word you want to use for people to do what we do, I don't think those are the appropriate words, because really what we are is we're way showers. And if we're really good at showing the way, we also show, well, I hit this bump, I hit that bump. It wasn't like my journey was perfect or I'm perfect. Like, no, here's my imperfection. And really, at the end of the day, a great way shower, a great teacher, helps their students become 10 times better than they are.
Right.
And tends to happen, I think, in personal growth, is that, like, we human beings do this thing, and I think it's like remnant of, the second coming concept of, like, some guy is going to come and save me.
Right.
So we deify whoever, or we look up to somebody and we say, well, I could never be like them, and they're this perfect thing. And I think that those illusions are really being shattered these days because, you know, gosh, I haven't met a single person who's a billionaire or a thought leader or successful or a celebrity that doesn't have a ton of insecurity and a bunch of mistakes they've made and current fears. And, you know, and I think that what we're sort of realizing is that, like, all right, let's just get over this idea of perfection. That's like very 1980s. Nice. You know?
Yeah, the beauty's in the
let's,
imperfection. Yeah, the beauty's in.
And it's like, let's just share vulnerability. But it doesn't mean, like, let's sit around and, like, complain all the time. Because sharing vulnerably doesn't mean, or authenticity doesn't mean, well, I'm in this relationship and I'm angry or mean, and me expressing my anger or my meanness is me going, well, I'm just being authentic. Don't get to be like a brat about it.
Right.
You have to do it with a sense of compassion and caring and kindness for the other person. And really, if you can share what you're going through, what you're feeling, with the intention of elevating and serving others, I think that really is what the best version of authenticity or vulnerability is. Because I've seen this in my own life and with a lot of my clients, is that they think, you know, being vulnerable. Like, I remember when I was first dating Jenna, I used the excuse of being authentic to justify being a cool asshole. You know?
I've seen
and
that.
I was being
Yeah.
a cool asshole because I was afraid. I was afraid of intimacy. I was afraid of, you know, a lot of stuff that's really healthy and good for me. And, you know, it was a one-on-one session with me and Jenna and Mary Ann, where Mary Ann Williamson sort of like snapped and said to me. And I was like, oh yeah, I am kind of being a jerk, you know? And so, you know, this idea of authenticity doesn't allow us to justify negative behavior. Say, well, you know, I'm authentically this, so authentically that. Because that's more pride than anything else. So does that make sense?
Yes.
So what we want to do,
yes.
we want to serve and we want to elevate people and really, you know, try to remove the barriers and say, well, you know, I'm going to pretend to be this great, awesome, amazing thing when really I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. And if I'm really honest, you know what? I'm not really there on the signpost. Or I've really mastered this area of my life, but I fully blow over here. And I'm scared to go there. And I think that those are the types of teachers that people are yearning for these days. Not some, you know, perfect savior that's going to come along and help us.
I completely agree. And what I love about your site, and I kind of imaged that on mine, is asking. I love that you are asking everybody to share with you. You're always like, send me your thoughts. Tell me what your thoughts are. More than most other sites I've ever seen. And I'm wondering where that came from.
Well, I think, you know, the Debate Love in general was started on a hunch. It wasn't like there was no like market research done or study or anything like that. It was just a hunch. And it came from this alchemical principle. I'm going to go woo-woo for a second, and then I'm going to come back, okay? So,
I'm okay. I'm kind of woo.
No one's going into woo-woo land, so just as a warning. But there's just no one coming back. So there's this alchemical principle called the green tablet. And it's a secret tablet from the UK area. And there's this principle in there for this guy Hermes. And he basically wrote this very simple phrase, and it's probably in the Bible, though I'm not sure, as well. And it's this concept of as above, so below.
Right.
So as above, so below. And so this is sort of like one of the like primary truths of life. And so when I read that, I was like, what if it's true that whatever I'm going through, everyone else is going through in a similar version or a similar way. Because if you think about it, like we all experience the joys and the traumas of the world, especially now with the internet and social media, at the same time. So when something awesome happens, we all celebrate. And when something catastrophe happens, we all get bummed.
Right.
And, you know, maybe what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, even though the content of my life, where I live and what I look like and my haircut, the clothes that I wear, all those things are different, but the emotional content was the same, even though the circumstance might be different. That was sort of the general assumption. And it turned out to be correct. And what was awesome about that is I got to really feel seen and feel connected to my audience. So I was like, wow, like this is really powerful. You know, like these people are loving up on me and I'm talking about my mistakes, and this is really cool. And then I thought to myself, you know, the ultimate version of service this is like really getting beyond yourself. Because at some point along this path, I was like, I'm so over talking about myself, but that's kind of what this has become. So let me like grow here. So we started, letting other bloggers kind of contribute to the site, which has been awesome because sometimes it's hard to like, that, like I'm used to getting like, for example, I'm used to getting like the most number of comments per day.
Mm-hmm.
But then like bloggers will come along and get 3 or 4 times as many comments. And I'm like, yeah. And at first I was like, what? But it was really cool to like sort of see that. And then I also thought, let's not just have people who, are like well known in the space. Like we should really hear from our audience and like give people an opportunity.
Everyone.
To share. And,
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is it's like when you share yourself, it's like first of all, just writing us and sending that is like therapy because it gets off your chest.
Totally agree. Yes.
Yeah, but then once you publish it and you get feedback from the community, to know that you're not alone in what you're going through, that is one of the most healing things that we can do for each other on the planet, to recognize that we're not alone in our suffering. Mm-hmm. And so that's really been sort of the inspiration behind, why we encourage people to share, because, reading my words is great, but really being seen or seeing the struggle of others, like real people, that to me is like really what it's about. Because that's really like the collective healing that's going to happen,
And that's what I love. I mean, that's the stories that the women have submitted on my site have been so inspirational to me. I've learned something from each one of them. And also what it has given them. I mean, I remember when I first started writing, I was like terrified to put it out. And I'm like, why are you terrified? And it felt, now it's like, commonplace, but at the beginning it does free you. It really does.
Totally.
And continues to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
That's a big deal.
And I love that you call yourself a storyteller and an entrepreneur instead of like a self-help coach or all that.
Oh, God.
I mean, I love the storytelling part because I wanted to ask if you could just talk about that for a second.
About being a storyteller?
Well, I like that you're a storyteller or a way shower and not, you're not touting yourself as some self-help guru.
I always laugh when people, like, on their Twitter bios or whatever, call themselves, like, a spiritual master or something.
I know.
It's like, if you're really, like, a spiritual master, like, let other people say that, because otherwise, that's just your ego trying to impress yourself,
It's so true, isn't it?
It's like, I've met plenty of spiritual masters who are homeless men or cats or dogs.
Me too.
I've met plenty of spiritual masters in Bali who are people that just are maybe the lower caste, that's so amazing and so great at serving and so loving. I just think that that's really inappropriate, because it also sort of creates this sense of separation, like I'm the master and you're the follower or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not really into that idea. I think that's the old model. So
it's nice. It's great.
And the other thing is, like, if I look really at my core, like who I really am, like there's really a lot of there's an expression of what I do, but it's not who I am. And there's lots of other ways that I can express and serve in the way that I am. And it's really through identifying my purpose. And really my ultimate purpose is to inspire people to feel like they belong. Like that's really what it is. And so like the way that I can express that, one way is through the daily love, but I'm also a screenwriter, and I'm also a short storyteller, I'm also a poet, I'm also a filmmaker. I have all these other avenues. I've very clearly decided to just pursue one in the beginning, instead of being a jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
Calling myself a storyteller is really true, because whether I'm writing a blog for the day, I'm telling a story, or if I'm writing a screenplay, I'm telling a story, or if I'm coaching or mentoring somebody, that's even storytelling. And I think that, if you think about something like Harry Potter or, therapy, I think at their best, they're the same thing. Because you get a lesson and an emotional catharsis.
Absolutely.
And the journey, I think, for us now is to, continuing to enjoy the stories of others, but really live our own hero's journey. And the way that I believe that you inspire people to do that is to tell inspiring stories that fill people with hope and love and the vision for a compelling future,
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. It's beautiful. Is there any specific project you're working on that you want to share that's new and exciting? I know you seem to work a lot teaching people about relationships, and you have a new workshop coming out teaching people about the qualities of the masculine and the feminine. I'd love
that's going to be up in May. I think that there's, sit around and like think about like, oh, what product could I scheme up to make money? That's never, like, making money has always been like an afterthought for me.
Mm-hmm.
But what's been interesting is in working with so many clients and reading so many comments and engaging with the audience for so long, I've really started to see that there's like such a need for certain types of material, because there's a lot of confusion in the world, and one of them is this very basic idea of how we relate to each other, which, if you think about it, is really like all that we ever do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like how we relate to each other. I mean, whether you're watching the news or what we're doing right now, or in your intimate relationships, or you're at work, or you're on the bus, or you're traveling, or you're checking in the hotel, or watching television, that's all a relationship with someone else, either in person or virtual. And we really have some real basic confusion around how to relate to each other.
Right.
So, yeah, I just think that we've, and especially as it relates to masculine and the feminine, I think that I really am a believer that the feminist movement failed.
Yes, me too. I agree.
Yeah, I think it was a necessary step, because if you think about where women were before that, it was kind of in the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of this first expression of women wanting to be empowered and free.
Right.
But I can't tell you how many women I meet that think that freedom or power is being like a man, and they're not free. And
I agree.
They're not powerful.
Uh-huh.
And you look at these people and these women who maybe kick after their job, but then they go home and they're single, or they're in a shitty relationship, or even worse, they're in a relationship but they want to leave. And there's some very basic principles around how to help teach people to get into their masculine or to get into their feminine, to create that polarity in a relationship. Because the other thing is, we get lazy in relationships and we think, wow, when did we go from being passionate lovers, making love like rabbits, to roommates?
Right.
And so there's just these basic principles, and I've learned from so many amazing people like Alison Armstrong and Tony Robbins and David Data,
mm-hmm.
and Pat Allen and Ariel Ford, and I've learned all this stuff just from my own life, and it's worked wonders in my relationship with Jenna. And then I started looking at the team that's out there, and gosh, so many people don't understand these basic principles. I think we need to start teaching this stuff. And I never set out to be a self-help guy, but I just see so much pain in the world, and I have this information to help people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was why not teach them?
Absolutely. I completely agree. It made me think of it when you're talking about it, about women in general. I've been Skyping a lot with the women in Egypt and Macedonia, and this kind of just came up for me as a question. Okay, so you've got the women in the Western world, or the women in the Western world, Australia, Europe, North America, and then you've got they're internally oppressing themselves in a lot of ways, and then you've got this external oppression happening in the Mideast. And what's so interesting to me, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, is speaking to these women. I've spoken to several, and they're 24, 26. They're somewhat more empowered and more articulate and standing more in their power than many 45-year-old women I'm talking to, and I'm not trying to make it about age, in the Western world. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are around the fact that these women have something to push against, right? They're externally oppressed and they're standing up. How do they not go to the other side as a feminist like we had our movement? Do you know?
I think it's kind of necessary. If you think about it, the sense of let's say, let's just talk about the modern woman in the West right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The modern woman in the West, evolved from the anger of maybe their moms or their grandmoms at being oppressed.
Right.
And it's that's a necessary step. It's kind of like life is always trying to find equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
And generally what happens is you go from one extreme to the other, and then back and back and back and back, and you finally kind of find the middle way.
Mm-hmm.
But, if I was oppressed, if I was able to show my body, if I wasn't able to celebrate my sexuality, if I wasn't able to be myself, I'd be really pissed.
That's a good point. Right. Right.
And if you only did that to me for a week, I'd be pissed. I can't imagine lifetimes and generations. So I think that, I really, one of the reasons why I also do what I do now, and it didn't start this way, but it's now, is because our demo is mostly female as well. I really, 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 really want to inspire women to be their amazing selves and really fully embrace who they are. Because if you look at, the patriarchal society, I'm not saying a matriarchal society is what we need. I'm saying we need balance of a patriarchy and a matriarchy.
Yes.
But if you look at, like, the patriarchal society that we live in, like, guys didn't really get it right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, there's war, there's famine, there's disease, there's starvation, there's extreme poverty. Like, in leadership, like, we lack empathy, and we lack compassion, and we lack these feminine qualities, intuition.
Yes.
And I think that, like, we need more of that. And so I really think that, the more women can stand up, the more they can rise up, and not be like men, but really, because if you think about it, right? Think about, like, a room full of, like, 100 guys, and then a woman in a very feminine outfit who's emanating, like, very powerful feminine energy. If she walks by,
right,
every guy will turn their head.
Absolutely.
Even if he's gay. Even if he's gay.
Yes, even if he's gay.
So, like, that's, like, the power of, like, femininity. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It's powerful. I spoke with Sheila Kelly. Have you heard of Sheila Kelly?
Oh, yeah, she's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, and I interviewed her, and she was absolutely fabulous at explaining this campfire and how women have masculinized themselves. And the more and more I hear, that is more of the movement that's coming along with people that are speaking out about this. We have to step into our feminine to balance it out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
That's great. So if you had one piece of wisdom that you'd most like to share with our community, and I told you our demographics, what would you say? A quote, thoughts, anything come up from your intuition?
I would just say that the path of transformation is really about realigning our relationship to fear. I think that if you want to live a fearless life, it's being your comfort zone.
Right.
And, growth, transformation is all very difficult. And, this idea of fear sort of being, if you're afraid you're not spiritual or you're doing something wrong, I think that's also a very tired idea. And one of the culprits of this is that book, A Course in Miracles, which a lot of people take as like this, gospel, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Course in Miracles says that there's two emotions, love and fear. But I don't really believe that. I think that love is a container or a space that allows free will to happen. And when we use our free will in either an ignorant way or a way that puts us in mortal danger, then fear is like a natural response, because fear is designed to protect us. I don't really think love has any opposites. I think love is the container, the space for all of it. So if we can, like, start to reframe fear and recognize it, like, gosh, what if my fear has a point? What if the reason why I'm afraid, like, there's a good reason, even if it's not based in what's actually true, but there's something going on in my belief system that says, like, I'm not safe. And, like, let's go analyze that. Let's go feel into that. Let's go try to express that and see and really challenge that belief and see if it's really true. And then also, most importantly, to begin to take action in light of being afraid. Because what happens is we tend to get fearful and think that's a reason to stop. And unless you're in mortal danger where, like, you're in the alleyway with a guy with a gun, chances are your fear is a compass showing you where to go. It's not the enemy. It doesn't mean you're unspiritual. It just means that you're growing. And to, like, let yourself off the hook from thinking, gosh, if I'm afraid, something's wrong with me. I can't say how many people I meet that think that if I'm afraid, something's wrong with me. And I think that The Course in Miracles is a very well-intended book. But I don't think it's by any means gospel. I'm not speaking against my friends Marianne and Gabby teach it. I think it's great and helps a lot of people. But I think there's massive confusion around what fear really is. And I've begun to see, to learn to see fear as my friend rather than fear as the enemy.
I absolutely love that you said that, because I've always felt that love is the container. It is. There's no duality. There's no opposite of it, and I've always felt that way. I've studied all kinds of different texts. I've never really been drawn to Course in Miracles, but I also really like the principles. I like a lot of the principles. It's just I just can't believe how articulate you were at just saying all that. I was like, I just wish I could just grab that. I mean, you've got such
I'm not like against The Course in Miracles. I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying that it's wrong. like there's massive confusion.
Right. I completely agree. It's not wrong. It's just, that people are getting it confused. Well, thank you so much, Mastin. I really appreciate this interview. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I wish you luck in everything you're doing.
You're so welcome. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for all that you do. It's really important.
Thank you, Mastin. Take care.
All right, lots of love.
Thanks. Lots of love. Bye.